just a great honor to have a Nebraskan that has had so much experience in trade and trade issues over almost 2 decades represent us in this role. Ambassador Vetter was part of the trade and trade policy issues under the Bush administration, and now is serving in perhaps the highest ranking ag trade role that we have in the nation. And so I just think it's a great opportunity for Nebraska to be able to have one of our own represent not only American agriculture but Nebraska agriculture at this level. And so congratulations, Ambassador Vetter. Our cup runneth over with pride. So please.
I'm extremely pleased to be able to take this position. I'm very grateful to the President, to Ambassador Froman for selecting me for this position. It really is an amazing time for U.S. agriculture. USDA is forecasting $149.5 billion in U.S. ag exports this year, another new record. And it's been a real privilege for me for the past 4 years. I've been working at USDA on the trade issues from that angle as well, and I'm pleased to be able to continue that. We really have one of the most ambitious trade agendas in several decades right now. We're negotiating the Trans-Pacific Partnership with 12 other Asian Pacific nations. We're in negotiations with the EU for what we call the TTIP, or the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. And we have a number of bilateral and ongoing negotiations with countries as well, both to maintain and expand opportunities for U.S. agriculture. So again, extremely pleased for the opportunity. Look forward to working with U.S. farmers and ranchers to increase their bottom line and create new opportunities for U.S. ag. So with that, I'm happy to take questions. China obviously is extremely important. They are our #1 trading partner. Just in the time that I have been serving in my role at USDA, China overtook Canada and Mexico and went from that 3rd position to take 1st place in terms of the value of our exports. And so they're critically important, and particularly for our oilseed producers, where the majority of what we export in oilseeds goes straight to China. They are becoming an increasingly important market for our corn crop. And of course, that's where we face some great uncertainty. Recently, I'm sure you've all heard that China's new testing regime on dry distillers grains and on our corn crop has led to a number of rejections. We've been working very closely with China to have its regulatory system and the procedures that it uses to judge exports match ours, or at least work more closely with us to make sure that those procedures are timely and predictable. And one of the key issues there is, of course, their approval system for biotech events, which is the current cause of concern. So we work with China very closely at the technical level to exchange information about how we make regulatory decisions, all the way up to ministerial level, where we have raised this issue and the importance of keeping our exports moving at the highest levels of their government. Never really stopped moving. It's slow and steady progress is what I would say. I think it's important to remember that Japan, despite the barriers that we face, is our #1 market in beef and in pork. It's our #3 market in rice, our #6 market in dairy. So even though they have, I think, one of the most protected markets, agricultural markets in the world, they're an incredibly important business partner. And there's a lot of value on the table to taking down the barriers in those areas. But with all of the economic partnership agreements, is what Japan calls its free trade agreements with other countries, for all of the EPAs that Japan has, almost all of those products were excluded from consideration. So in joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Japan agreed that there would be no product exclusions. So every product is on the table, but frankly, they've never done this before. And so we are trying to be very thorough in going through every one of those products, even in those sensitive areas, and making sure that we get the best deal possible. And so it's slow and it's difficult slogging, but we are continuing to make progress, and it is a really big focus, obviously, for me and for the ag negotiating team at USTR right now. Europe generally has an average ag tariff that is much higher than the United States. Its tariff on some of our meat products are quite significant. What Europe sends to us, we are their number one ag export market. They send us a lot of wine, a lot of high-value cheeses and processed products. But our market share into Europe has actually gone down significantly in the past few years, and that's largely been because of barriers to being able to ship our products made with biotechnology, barriers to our beef products, for example. And so we're going to work on dismantling both their tariff system, which we think presents a good new opportunity, but also work on those SPS barriers. We hope we can make progress in making their biotech system approval system more timely and predictable. We'd like to work on production methods for poultry, for example, and for other meats, the kinds of pathogen reduction treatments, or PRTs as we call them, that are used widely and safe and recognized in the United States, but not acceptable in Europe. So there are a number of those issues where we hope we can work with their regulators to get sort of mutual acceptance of the other's process and really open up those markets to the U.S. We made great progress in knocking down barriers to U.S. beef. Of course, back in 2003, over a decade ago now, with that case of BSE discovered up in the Pacific Northwest, a number of countries closed their market, and it's taken far too long to restore them. But we have seen Japan move to beef from 30 months and under. Our exports last year increased 50% once they made that opening. Hong Kong has now fully opened to U.S. beef, all products, all ages. Mexico recently lifted its age restriction as well. So we continue to really push at those barriers. Full beef access to China obviously remains a very strong goal where our beef currently cannot enter. So it is a priority. It's one where we're engaging largely bilaterally, but we also work in the context of our trade negotiations to try and tackle some of those barriers as well. Japan currently has almost a 40% tariff on beef. That's one of the priorities for us, is to bring that tariff down and as close to zero as possible and really regain access and add value to every kilogram of beef we send there.